was so glad that it snowed the day I released the last episode about the reindeer run. I couldn't have scripted it any better. And I want to thank Mark Baden of Channel 12 for letting me call in that favor he owed me from many years ago to make that snow happen. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm Fuzz Martin, and you're listening to 15 Minutes with Fuzz, a show about the positive things happening in and around Washington County, Wisconsin. On this week's episode, you will be visited by 3 ghosts. Or we could just have one guest, and that will be Nolan Zadra, who is playing the role of Ebenezer Scrooge in the West Bend Theater Company's rendition of A Christmas Carol, which takes place at the West Bend Masonic Center on December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and again on the 8th, 9th, and 10th here in 2023. So let's do that. Here are 15 or so minutes on A Christmas Carol with Nolan Zadra on 15 Minutes with Fuzz. Nolan, thank you for joining me today. Can we start by talking a bit about West Bend Theater Company and its history in our community here?
Certainly. West Bend Theater Company was founded in 2010, and that's really where they kicked off Christmas Carol, small production. Nancy Storrs, who is the president of West Bend Theater Company, and it's really sort of been her baby over the years, and she's just built it into a holiday tradition. It really has been for families to come through years after year, except for 2020 when it was knocked out for COVID.
Sure.
They've also then started to add more shows each year, which are on their website. And I can talk about that later if you wish.
Yeah, certainly. And so is the show performed at the Masonic Lodge, or where is the Christmas Carol
Yes,
show performed?
It's performed at the Masonic Lodge each year.
Okay.
They have had other shows. I recall South Pacific, they had at West Bend High School.
Right.
And again, we can talk about that later. There's just a quaintness about that theater. It's, in a sense, theater in the round. It's on both sides of the actors. And that's where it has been for all these years.
Ahead of this interview, we spoke a little bit off air about your coming up in acting, and you kind of took a non-traditional tact to becoming an actor. Tell us about how you got involved with acting.
I am a lawyer by training. I had no theater training in West Bend, and I went to West Bend High School, graduating class, last high school class of 1970. Great class. A bunch of us still to get together quarterly, and even almost 55 years later. So nothing like that, but I'm a corporate lawyer by training, well, by practice, actually, working for the last many years at a bank that became 70,000 employees, a Fortune 500 company.
Sure.
And in that process, besides my regular role, I was put in charge of training. And before that, on the side, in the 80s, I taught at MSOE and Alverno College business law. And let's face it, law is not the most easy thing to follow. And so I thought, gee, to teach students, I had to go beyond the norm and make it more like real life, but with some humor and everything else. Well, once I took that to U.S. Bank, the fact is that we grew to the point where I couldn't travel to sites as much, but I had been traveling to St. Louis and to Kentucky and Nebraska and that. But once we got to about half the nation, we started doing it online.
Okay.
Well, there you not only have to have interesting sound effects and PowerPoints and that type of thing, but you also had to use your voice and bring in all sorts of aspects. I had music introducing the course, AC/DC and the like. And so I started going that route, and I also started teaching in the summer a little bit at the Graduate School of Banking. And both my children were in theater in the high school, and I saw how much fun they had. And finally, when I started doing a shtick at the Graduate School of Banking and put on a Clint Eastwood outfit, it actually gave me the confidence to say, well, you know what? I'm basically acting,
right?
Both in my career, but on the side also. And why not take a shot at it? And I did at age 61. It was sort of a new bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was either that or learning guitar and playing in a band. And I thought whichever one came first. Well, I got the lead in 39 steps. which was daunting because there were almost 40 scenes. And I sort of ran with it since then.
And you obviously love it because you're still doing it today.
Yes, I guess I won't say my exact age, but it's quite a bit later than that now. And to now have the opportunity to play Mr. Scrooge himself, Ebenezer, is just so thrilling.
So going down that direction, it is the 14th year that the West Bend Theater Company will be putting on A Christmas Carol. Why do people love A Christmas Carol so much? Why is that our staple here in the United States?
You know, people love the story, first of all. But perhaps the better question, Fuzz, is why do they love it so much at West Bend Theater Company?
Right.
Because I have had people who basically have gone to the Pabst, like I have, to see it, and you're seeing a very professional and wonderful production. And yet I've had people come up to me after the program when we've done the play, and they've said, gee, they've enjoyed this just as much. Certainly you're not dealing with professional actors, but there's an intimacy about the theater. There is an intimacy about the production. People are right on top of it. You're engrossed with that whole story, with the actors basically between you and them. And it's a quaintness and a feeling like you're almost in 1800s London that just makes it extra special.
As you had mentioned, each year they're adding more shows, right, or more times to see it. Is that right?
Well, they basically, and they have 8 shows each year.
Okay.
And it is, this year, it's December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then a week later.
Okay.
We have one show on a Friday night. We have 2 shows on a Saturday, a 2 p.m. matinee and a 7 p.m. show in the evening. And I can talk about where they can find information about this. And then a 2 p.m. show on Sunday. And that's repeated then the following weekend. So it's the first 2 weekends of December. And they sell out every year.
They do. When I was talking to Nancy about having you come on to talk about this, I said, how late should we wait to talk about A Christmas Carol? Because as this is coming out, it's, the first week in November. And she said, they're going to sell out fast. So if you want to go see A Christmas Carol, the earlier that we can talk about this, the better, because people love seeing it here in West Bend, and they will buy up all the tickets.
That is exactly right. I've talked to friends and relatives to be getting tickets now. Before long, it'll be too late. You're
playing the role of Ebenezer Scrooge this year. Is this your first time in A Christmas Carol, or have you played roles before?
No, I had the fortune. First of all, I watched this production since 2010 on a number of occasions and just enjoyed it. In 2018, Nancy approached me an opportunity to act as Ebenezer Scrooge, and I prepared for that role from May on because the line load is not Ebenezer Scrooge, for Charles Dickens,
sure,
as the narrator. And in the traditional role that this theater does, unlike the Pabst, Dickens has a very intense role covering pretty much every scene, and so the line load is very extensive. I prepared for that. Unfortunately, we lost our venue that year, but in 2019, I had the opportunity to act in that role. One of my favorite roles I have ever undertaken, but that besides Judge Harper in Miracle on 34th Street at Sunset Playhouse. Those are my 2 favorite roles, and I was prepared to do it again in 2020, but again, that was the COVID year that canceled us midway through.
I played a thief in 6th grade in A Christmas Carol, so I know it's kind of like on the same level, I think. I remember it very well, though. It was a lot of fun.
But yes, in fact, I can still recite the lines from Dickens' role because they're so ingrained in my head. And I got immersed in it. Nancy really wanted me to read about Charles Dickens, too, and understand where he was coming from. And just a fascinating author and playwright, and obviously that's been changed slightly over time. But the story he tells, it's almost like in Beauty and the Beast, the tale as old as time. Same thing here. People just keep gravitating back to it.
Kudos to you. I know that that is a large line load for that narrator, Charles Dickens' character. How is it different preparing to be Ebenezer Scrooge versus that role when you were playing Charles?
Well, obviously that's a very large line load too, and since we just auditioned not long ago, it's a much more demanding pace right now to pick up all these lines before the opening of the show in December. That being said, one of the advantages of playing Scrooge is most of the play, you're acting off another actor.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Charles Dickens' narration at times just went on, and Dickens writes in a very obtuse and obscure way in many ways. And so it was difficult to remember his colloquies as such. In working with Scrooge, again, you're working off another actor, except until you meet the ghost of Christmas yet to come. There, he's not interacting with you other than pointing. And so there, again, you're back to sort of by yourself trying to give that story without interacting off another character. And it sort of a shift in once you get to Act 2.
You had spoken earlier about how acting gave you that chance to use your voice, so that Charles Dickens character was definitely one that is really voice forward. Do you enjoy now having more physical acting involved in this as well? I mean, it's not, Ebenezer's obviously not zany or going and doing too much, but is it?
Well, stay tuned for production. He gets a little zany later on.
Okay, all right.
But no, you're right. It is an opportunity to act fully, although I will say my version of Dickens as the narrator, Nancy that year actually opened it up where the person playing Charles Dickens, in this case myself, really at times was able to get right upon the audience and really be involved in acting. But in both cases, it is so fun to be in a way to express yourself. And what's really interesting, challenging, but interesting is to play the role of someone who is certainly not well liked in the community and then see this transformation with him and to portray that transformation.
Nolan, what message or themes in A Christmas Carol resonate most strongly with you personally?
There's a line from the second act where Scrooge is talking to the ghost of the future. And he states that men's courses foreshadow certain ends. But if those courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus so with what you show me, Spirit. And so there is that aspect that you have an ability to a certain point to change your direction in life. And I think that's something that this story really speaks to. Personally, though, for me, it's also just the warmth of the Christmas season. And this story is so magical in that regard. And in that regard, I just love it because it speaks to that.
Let's go back to you joining the West Bend Theater Company. How did you get involved with this theater company? What made you come here to West Bend?
I think, again, it was, first of all, my relationship with West Bend. This is an area that I've always loved. I almost settled up here, but commuting to downtown Milwaukee, I decided at one point it was too far.
Sure.
Now that I'm retired, I could see living here again, but we are well settled somewhere else town. And the opportunity after seeing the productions and how well run they were, and again taking my career towards where I basically was acting itself, and really working with other theater companies, I was really drawn to the story, Christmas Carol, and what I had seen in the productions. That's what brought me here, and the excellence. And I give kudos to Nancy because really she has made this such an excellent production, such a tradition over the years that's what brought me here.
Great. What can audiences expect that makes this year's production of A Christmas Carol unique or special maybe compared to other years?
If I told you that, Fuzz, I'd give all the secrets away.
Okay,
But no, I don't. Let me say at least this. We have a new director, and they have different directors each year. Tina Binns. She is young, fantastic, energetic, and creative. And so she's got some little nuances that will definitely catch the audience's eye. We also have more interaction with all the characters, more involvement with all the characters throughout the play. Even the Dickens role, the narrator role, has been split where other characters are saying portions of what Dickens would normally have said. And then the music selection. They've given a real commitment of time to put forth, as they do every year, with great music, and it's been expanded now to even more selections. And I think people really enjoy the music that comes along with this production.
That was a good way of saying that without giving away any of the special pieces. What is it like preparing for this role? What is your daily schedule? Now we're about a month out from the start. What is that like for you?
First of all, let me say, with respect to the singers, and I'm not a singer in this, that's not Scrooge's role. They have to give such commitment, of course, and practicing themselves on the various songs, protecting their voices as such. In my role, the aspect of rehearsing at home with such a line load and the role being in basically almost every act is just to dedicate a lot of time each day to rehearsing. And I could only do that with the help of my wife, Diantha, who gets to know these plays very well because she's reading the lines of the character before me and then either correcting me or making even some comments about how I might say something. I don't always agree with her, but I couldn't do it without her.
Yeah.
And so there's time spent that way. And then, of course, we are in October, and so there have been days where we haven't had rehearsals and singers might have rehearsals. And so it's not as constant. Once we turn the clock next week, it'll be 4 days a week.
Okay.
And for those of us commuting some distance, and as the nights go longer, I say, it's 4 hours a night, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week.
Okay.
And then that doesn't include your rehearsal at home, for which I'm doing at least hour and a half every day.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a real commitment by people. But when you get time to produce it, and if it and it turns out to be a great production, it's all worth it.
So community theater relies on the support of many people behind the scenes. Can you talk about some of the roles and maybe some of the individuals that help make these productions possible?
It's called community theater for a reason, because it is a community of folks that just put every effort in it, and it's all volunteer. Let's face it, people don't have to do this. It's very easy to sit home in fall and have that extra cocktail or something like that than to make the effort to do this. Obviously, our board of directors and Nancy with her dream and drive make such a difference, as well as each director of the show, again, Tina in this case, to our music director, Janice, who is spending umpteen hours at nights with all of the singers. And then the lighting director, ticket director, Andrea Gerke, she spends just untold hours. And then there's the parents, particularly because there are so many young actors. And by the way, there are so many great young actors. I continue to be amazed. Again, I didn't do anything like this in high school. Forensics and debate, yes, that type of thing, but not theater. And these young actors, some of them just, again, amaze me, but their parents have to be there, not only helping them with lines, but devoting the time to get them there, sometimes be there, especially with very young actors. And so think about all of those people there involved in the lighting director, sound effects people helping build the stage, and sometimes it's parents that come in and help. It's just everybody pulling together to produce a great production.
Yeah. And then you're all obviously passionate about it, and that's why you do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There are times where it just gets to be tiring and long, but you know what that end goal is. And to see the smiles on the faces of the people after their show, the warmth of that whole production, it's just worth it.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So wrapping things up, again, A Christmas Carol is coming to West Bend, as it has for 13 years here at the West Bend Theater Company. It'll be at the West Bend Masonic Center Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. That'll be December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then 8th, 9th, and 10th of 2023. Nolan, where can people buy tickets to the show? And again, buy them early, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you want to be technical, Fuzz, the actual URL is, a website is westbendtheaterco.com. Now, theater is a Theatre, not the traditional way you might think of spelling theater. But there's a much easier way to get there, and just Google, type in West Bend Theater Company any way you want,
Okay.
and it will pop up.
Great.
And once you get there, you'll see the various shows that they offer. And they're offering also Blind Dating at Happy Hour in February and Escape to Margaritaville in May next year. But right now, you're going to see Christmas Carol pop up front and center.
Yep.
There's a little link to the side for tickets. And
Okay.
you just click on that, and all tickets have to be ordered online. And there's no in the location purchase. It's just online. And but it's very easy to get there.
All right. And again, buy your tickets early. They will sell out. And so if there's a date that you want to see it, or one of the, early or later show on a Saturday, make sure you get those purchased early. Nolan, I appreciate you coming
because if you miss it, it's going to be humbug.
Love it. I was hoping we were going to get a humbug out of you. Nolan, thank you so much for coming in. This was great.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you again to Nolan Zadra. We're looking forward to seeing him as Scrooge in this year's A Christmas Carol with the West Bend Theater Company. Tickets are on sale now at westbendtheaterco.com. Again, that's westbendtheaterco.com. R-E on theater, not the other way around. So you could just Google it and save yourself the need to remember. Again, westbendtheater.com. But again, Google's your friend. And that'll do it for this week's show. If you ever have an idea for the show, be my friend. Email me, 15withfuzz@gmail.com. Again, that's 15 spelled out, not the number, 15withfuzz@gmail.com. Or go to fuzz.cc/guest. That is fuzz.cc/guest. And fill out the form. Enough spelling things. New episodes drop on Tuesdays. And I'll talk to you next Tuesday, right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz.